Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking to Sako Kassabian today. He is the founder of Kassabian Barbecue, data analyst turned chef. We're going to learn his story and how he got here. All right, Sako, how are you?
Good, Arma. How are
Hey,
you?
very good. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get all into Kassabian Barbecue and how it started and how it's going and, future plans. So let's start from the beginning. I want to know what inspired you to start Kassabian Barbecue?
Mm.
What was like the inception in your mind? What were you thinking?
You know, probably mid 2000s
Hmm.
when I was in college, I started cooking quite a bit. And my dad growing up loved cooking for people. Like he was famous for his burgers. He's still famous for his falafels today. And um, my friend and I would cook Armenian barbecue for like other friends and even like my friends from college that had never had it. And we kind of had this a tag team going where he would prepare the meat. I hate it and I still don't like it preparing the meat today where it's like putting it on the sheesh and everything.
Right.
And I would just do the fire, take care of the fire, cook the meat and serve it. And so we did that for a few years and probably around 2010, 2011, I was like, man, I really want to start something food wise. I feel like, I have the mindset, the skills a little bit that seem to make good food. And I tested a few things, but really nothing happened. And fast forward many years, probably like 2018, 2019, where I started cooking again. I bought a flat top griddle that sat outside and cooked a lot for my family, cooked a lot for my friends. And I remember, even with my kids, we would sit down and go on YouTube and be like, okay, what should I cook next?
Right.
And from there, I started getting the comments of like, hey man, you should really start something. And I was like, I don't know, I have my career, whatever. I just kind of enjoy this doing it on the side. And
You'd get comments from where?
from friends,
Yeah.
friends that would eat, and then other people that were kind of friends of friends that I would also serve food to. And I would always tell my wife, "Hey, should we do something?" And she'd always be like, "Ah, excuse me, I don't know if we should." And probably around 2020 was when I was really feeling like, man, I really want to do something. And I remember going to a hunting trip where um, I cooked for a bunch of guys there, and one of the guys there was retired guy, older, very hard to please with food. And after I cooked a steak for them, he was like, "You should really do something." And that kind of pushed me over the edge. And so I came back from that trip and I told my wife, "I'm doing something." And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do something, open a business license." And from there, just kind of my problem, and we've talked about this, is over analyzing,
Mm.
right? Where it's like I'm really scared and I analyze and I don't do anything. And so I got to a point where I was like, you know what, don't analyze, just do it. Just put stuff out there, because there's a lot of bad food, right? We've all had bad food, and these people have put it out there, and even though it's bad,
Especially in LA. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's out there though,
Yeah.
right? And serving bad food where you actually have a business is better than having great food and not
Yeah.
having a
Right.
business, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there and we'll see what happens. And so that's kind of the inception of it.
I love it. Tell me a little bit about the beginning steps to opening a business.
Yeah.
Because I know the restaurant business it's a, you could definitely be successful because yeah, I've tried your food and it's
Yeah.
great,
Thank
but
you.
it's a hard business to make it
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
That's that, you know, I think everyone who starts struggles with that, because I have no idea. Like that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses of like the business end. Um, I know how to cook, and I just want to just cook, right? And I don't really want to worry about the business stuff, but it's something where you have to, and you learn by making all the mistakes. So there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. Where do I go to get certain licenses? What licenses do I need? How do I deal with the health department? And so there's a lot of steps that you take, and a lot of people do help you along the way. So, for example, I work out of like a ghost kitchen, and they were the ones when I went to them. They were the ones telling me, "Here's what you need to open." And so probably most of the stuff they told me, I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know I needed this stuff," and I had to go work with the health department. The health department told me, "Here's what you need." Excuse me, and yeah, it's dude, it's a learning process.
Do
It's
you
a
mind explaining, because it's a fairly
yeah,
new concept,
yeah.
the ghost kitchen? Do you mind
A
explaining?
ghost kid,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. So think of an apartment complex, right? So how does an apartment complex work, right? It's a building and there's a bunch of rooms, right? Rooms, right? And that's basically how a ghost kitchen works, where it's a warehouse
Hmm.
where there's a bunch of just kitchens. So there's no place to actually sit down and eat. Businesses will come and rent those kitchens, and either you have probably two types of businesses. Some of them will just prepare food. So like I know of a couple of businesses that do like a food prep, like meal prep work, where they just go there, use the kitchen to prep meals because you can't do it at home, right? Like
Right.
because of the health department and all that. So they'll go there and do that. Another option is, and kind of what I'm doing is like delivery, where people will order from you and will come and deliver and will come and pick it up, right? And so the the way it functions is like I said, like just a warehouse and there's a bunch of kitchens. And it's not just like one restaurant and everyone's sharing the same kitchen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I explain it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely, we have spoken about ghost kitchens many of times, but I know it's a fairly new
Yeah. Yeah,
concept,
it
so
is.
I just want to clarify for anyone watching.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about, where do you see your business evolving into?
Yeah.
Because I know in any business that you get into, there's always a fork in the road between
Yeah.
what path you need to take. And you've been seeing some success, especially with your Chex Mix snacks
Yeah.
that you're selling on
Yeah.
Etsy.
Yeah.
So
Like you mentioned, like yeah,
yeah,
fork in the road, right? Like um thinking about the future, there are many ways I can go and and then all of these ways I really don't mind going in either one, right? And so my options, and this isn't the option like generally for every restaurant, but my options personally are, do I go the brick and mortar route, right? Do I open up a restaurant? Or do I go down the route of what I'm doing online of selling smoked snacks, right? So I have a line of smoked Chex Mix, I have a line of smoked jerky. We're working on some new things, right? Like potentially some chocolate chip cookies in the future that my wife makes that are amazing.
right.
Uh, so there's that route. Another route is I make my own sauce for my burgers that I sell, and I could bottle that up, and people can buy it because that's another thing that people enjoy. I could with that sell uh, rubs, dry rubs, right? And so that's another option. But yeah, I mean, I have a few options that I could go to, and each one for me is enjoyable. I would love to do any of those, but right now, uh, I'm working on whatever is open to me, right? So what I'm doing out of the ghost kitchen is the smash burgers, fries, and a drink, keeping it simple, right? And I may add pulled pork in the future, but I really enjoy the kind of the in and out style of simple menu. When people come in, they know what to order, one, two, or three, basically. And um, from there, focusing on the smoked snacks. And now I'm just thinking about the sauce selling, the dry rub selling. So I haven't really started that route, but it's something I this past week actually I was actively like looking at researching, okay, so how am I going to do this? What are the things I need to do? What are the steps I need to take to be able to sell this to people? So that's kind of what the options I do have. And I'm not really putting all of my eggs in one basket. It's more, you know, going back to what I mentioned about over analyzing,
Mhm.
right? For me, it came back to, don't over analyze one of these roads. Just do it and test the market, right? See what people like, see what people are willing to pay for, and what they enjoy. And from there, just follow it, right? And the analysis is not bad, right? Analysis is very important. But if you're a person that's prone to over analysis, my recommendation would be just do it.
Mhm.
Just do it. And if it's bad, it's okay, right? It's not the end of the world. You can improve it. Just don't take things personally, right? If people give you feedback, don't take it personally, but care for their feedback. Like, it's funny. I watch, uh, what's his name? Ramsey, Chef
Oh,
Ramsey,
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon
Yeah,
Ramsay. Going,
I love that guy.
yeah, yeah, he's a funny
Yeah.
guy, but like he goes to
But side
restaurants.
note, he's
Yeah,
just I've actually heard he's a very nice guy
he
if you
is.
meet him. Yeah.
So like, but you watch some of the stuff he does, right? Like he goes to these kitchens and like the people in the back are freaking out,
Yeah.
right? They're freaking out. And like for me, I would have the opposite reaction. Like if Gordon Ramsay ever came and was like, "Hey, I want to try your burger," I'd be like, "Yes, please." And give me feedback. Because look, you you never want to be the smartest guy in the room, right? You always want to be a person that's willing and open to learn. And if someone like Gordon Ramsay, who's been, a chef for decades, right, at this point, comes and tries your food and gives you feedback, you can't take that stuff personally. You have to view it as like, hey, this is a learning opportunity to take my stuff to the next level. And this guy's offering it to me. Like, wow, what a privilege that he would come in and say, dude, like either he tells you, man, this is amazing, and you're like blown away, like, hey, a guy like this is telling me it's amazing, or he gives you feedback. And yeah, if he's on a show, I'm sure, they need some,
Yeah.
so he has to go a little over and say, this is absolute garbage. But I think if he's off camera, he would give you genuine feedback. And so, yeah, I mean, that for me, it's all about just put it out there, get the feedback and improve and be willing to improve and not take things, be a little bit thick skinned in the feedback. Because look, man, like we talked about, there's bad food out there, but these people are putting it out there. In the same way, it's very easy for people to sit back and just criticize and who are not doing anything,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so you need to take it and see that criticism as like, I'm at least doing something and I'm willing to learn. And so it's a long-winded way of saying I have options to move into the future.
Oh, I love it. And with putting things out there, you have to obviously analyze
Yeah,
marketing,
for sure.
how you're marketing the product, who you're marketing it to.
Hmm.
What are some mediums you use when you're doing marketing? Like, what do you do? I know you're on Instagram, you're
Hmm.
on Etsy.
Hmm.
What made you come to the decision to go on Instagram or to go on Etsy? Or you could have went a different route, but
Yeah.
you chose that route. What made you come to that decision?
So specifically with the smoked snacks, I've known for years those types of snacks do well on Etsy. So there are certain snacks that won't spoil quickly, or not even spoil quickly, but like can be enjoyed when they're not like fresh or hot, right? Like I can't ship a burger to someone in North Carolina. Like that's
Yeah.
not going to work,
Mm.
right? You need that in a certain amount of time. You have a time frame for that. But like smoked Chex Mix can go for weeks and it's still fresh. And so when you're thinking about snacks like that, Etsy is a great place to be able to sell those things. And people go on that website to buy things like that, buy snacks like that. And so from a marketing standpoint, you have a couple of options, right? There's paid marketing, right, where you can pay Etsy to put you as a sponsored result. There's also kind of organic marketing that happens. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier, where you slowly grow your ratings when people show up. Like if you show up, like you go to, let's say you're searching for a snack on Etsy and you go to someone's page that has 0 ratings, right? You're like,
Sure.
I have no idea who this person is. I
Sure.
don't know if it's any good, right? And so if you um look at that, you're probably not going to take that chance. And so you go to another page, opposite effect, and you're more likely to buy from them. So there's a natural kind of marketing aspect that happens there. And then you can use the other end of like Instagram or other mediums where you can share content, right? People love seeing things you're making. the process of how you're making these things, how they're put together. And so you can kind of give people a inside look at how your business functions and creating content that will then go back and feed back into like Etsy or whatever. So there's different options. And you do all of them. I do all of them. And they all help in growing your business. And obviously there's a snowball effect, right? Like certain businesses don't need to do paid advertising because they're so known, right? Like everyone knows In-N-Out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
In-N-Out isn't paying for advert. Like when was the last time you saw an In-N-Out commercial, right? They have commercials, but it's, few and far between because they're so known. So there's a snowball effect as well, where there's a natural brand recognition after a while. And so you need to make sure that even though you can have great marketing, your product needs to be good as well, right? And so if your product is bad, the marketing is only going to take you so far. And so for me, marketing is important, but making good food is just as important, and if not more, because that's what people are going to talk about. No one's going to talk about the content that you made of like, oh wow, I saw an inside look at, no one's going to be talking about that to
Right.
their friends,
Yeah.
right? That's more like they'll get their foot in the door, but the way you made them feel after they had your food, that's what they're going to talk about to their friends and family, and that's what's going to bring them back.
Yeah. And it kind of piques my interest because we're moving into, because Mr. Beast, he
Hmm.
talks about this and he's very right about it. Actually, we're moving into a type of marketing where we're gonna have a lot of influencer marketing, and what I mean by that is traditional brands like Hershey's, Kit Kat, that haven't been challenged in many, many, many years.
Yeah.
We have a lot of influencers now that are starting to not only market themselves but market what they're selling, such as Logan Paul. What does he sell? He sells Prime.
Hmm.
Mr. Beast, he does Beastables,
Yeah.
like his
It's chocolate,
burger
right?
and then his chocolate. Yeah, he runs his burger joints and then his
Hmm.
chocolate joints. And what he was, at least what Mr. Beast was saying, is that more the more these influencers get market share, the more it's going to disrupt the industry,
Yeah.
and it's going to completely change things. I would imagine. I mean, this is me just guessing that a lot of market shares will be given to influencers over the next 50 years, and a
Yeah.
lot of traditional markets are going to start dying out. So.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to respond in a certain way, right?
Or they're gonna have to respond and pay attention, because
Exactly.
other traditional brands like Hershey's and things like, they're not really taking these influencer marketing people seriously. So
Well, they'll never take it seriously until
it hurts them.
it hurts
Yeah.
them. Exactly. And so when it starts hurting them, you're going to see them changing. And it'll be interesting to see how they change, right? So will they join them in getting other influencers, or will they take another route that is yet to be discovered, right? So I don't know. That's a more something that's like a watch and see, right? Let's see what happens. I think Mr. Beast specifically probably has um, enough of a following to really make a dent. I think in the Beastable. Is it called Beastables?
I think Beastables is his
Is the chocolate?
is the chocolate
Yeah.
part, and he also has his burger joints as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I got to take him down on the burgers.
yeah. Yeah. A little bit more about your brand specifically.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the churro Chex Mix
Yeah.
flavor?
Yeah. So at the time, we only had the original flavor, right, which is smoked Chex Mix, and I don't just take Chex Mix and smoke it, right, at like straight out of a bag or whatever.
Yeah.
So we create like a wet kind of mix and mix the Chex with it. And it's not just Chex. There's like other stuff in there, right? And smoke that, and it takes on a very nice flavor. It's a great snack. And then I was talking to my wife one day. I was like, I want a sweet flavor, and I want a spicy one as well. But I was like, what do we do for sweet? Like, do we mix it with like Nutella or something, And we were thinking, and I'm trying to remember. There was one idea we had before, and we're like, no, I don't think that's gonna sound good. And then we were talking, and I forget if she
Do you
just
mind
had
sharing
it.
the idea? If you,
No, that's the thing. I can't even
yeah,
remember what it was.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it didn't last long, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Like it wasn't like it was like weeks we were sitting on. I didn't even make a test batch. It
Mm.
was just like an idea we threw out there. And then she just mentioned, what about a churro type flavor? And I was like, oh, that might work. And I made a batch, and it was like, wow, this might be better than the original flavor. And then every time I make a new flavor, I take the same route. I make it, and I always want to like what I'm selling. Like, I'm the type of person that I would be a terrible salesman, right? Going to a random company where I don't believe in the product, but I still have to sell it, right?
You're right.
There's something inside of me that's just like, it feels like I'm deceiving people. And
Sure.
so anything I put out there for sale, I would buy myself. So both from a product like product quality standpoint and also from a pricing standpoint, right? Um, I I want to say, if I'm selling something at $8, that if I saw this at a store, I would pay the $8 and buy it or whatever price it is, right? And so I made a test batch for us. We loved it, and I was like, okay, let me share it with my friends, make a few more batches, share it, get some feedback. And the feedback was like, no, this is amazing. You need to sell this.
Right.
And then from there, for me, if I like it, my family likes it, and then a bunch of my friends are like, yes, this is great. And they're the people that are willing to tell me to my face like, no, this is not good, man. This is You need to go back to the kitchen and figure
Try
this
it.
out, right?
Right.
Yeah. But no, the feedback was like, no, this is really good. And so from there, again, going back to like, don't overanalyze, just put it out there. And so I just put it out there. And so I just took those two steps in kind of making sure it's a good product, and then you just put it out there. But I knew I wanted a sweet flavor, right, from the get go. And then from there, we made a spicy one because people were like, there's a little bit of spice in the original. It's not, I wouldn't call it spicy at all. There's very, very little of a kick, but people wanted one with a kick. And so I ended up getting habanero powder and mixing it in. And yeah, people really enjoy that one as well.
So we got the churro, the original smoked, and then the spicy.
Spicy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I know also you also do beef jerky, right?
Yeah. Beef jerky as well. Smoked again. Like, I have a dehydrator, but I don't use it because I want that natural smoke flavor to not be, from a bottle where you could buy liquid smoke, but for me
It doesn't taste. I've
it's not the
tried it. I
same.
don't
Yeah,
like
it's not the
it.
same.
Yeah.
And so I I, I make it in the smoker, and again with that one, I'm still looking for a sweet flavor, right? I've made maybe 3 or 4 different batches, but it's never gone past my family because we try it and we're like, it's just not good enough. Um, and so that part's still going, but I do have 3 flavors there as well, where I have a original and then I have a spicy, but I also have an extra spicy for the people who are like, they love the crazy spice. And that one is like the I made a batch about 2 weeks ago, and my wife came home and I was like, hey, I have a batch of extra spicy. You want to try a little piece? And she's like, you know what? I don't want to, but I will try. And then she took, I swear, like a piece like this big, and she took a little bite, and she's like, nope. And she just put it back. And she's like, yeah, I'm not gonna. There's no way I'm
All
gonna
right.
eat. Yeah, I'm gonna eat that. But I sent it to a friend of mine who wanted an order, and I was like, hey, like you need to realize this is pretty spicy. And he's like, no, no, I love spicy. And I texted him a few days later. I was like, hey, was it too much for you? He's like, no, this was absolutely amazing. Like, this is perfect for me. And for me, the perfect spice level is the spicy, where it has a good kick, but at the same time, it's like, it's not going to kill you, where it's like, you're not sitting there for like tens of minutes where it's like half an hour is passing and your mouth is still burning. The thing I like about the habanero pepper. It's the same as when I use serranos in like salsa. There's a good kick, but it doesn't linger too much. It kind of like goes away
Yeah, it
fairly
doesn't.
quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas there's other peppers that just like stay. They love to stay. And so uh, I use the serrano, but for a good kick, habanero has more of a kick. It's higher on the Schofield. I believe it's the Scoville's something else.
Right.
Yeah, Scoville level is much higher than the Serrano. So if you want the nice kick, you go with the habanero. I mean, you can go more, but I like that. It's a good range for me.
I love it. You also do smash burgers too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think it was around the same time as when I discovered smoked Chex Mix. And it's funny because I still have the text that I sent to my wife about the smoked Chex Mix, where I was on Reddit and I was checking out recipes. This is way before I was selling stuff, and I still have a text where I sent to her, and it was a link to someone making Chex Mix in the smoker, and I was like, some people are just smoke anything. These people are crazy. They're smoking Chex Mix, and like I've seen people smoking cream cheese and lots of things, and they're like, this is absolutely amazing. And I've tried some like the cream cheese I can't get into. Like I tried it a couple times. I'm like, this is not that good, but like some people swear by it, like as a dip, like it becomes a dip. And so it was the same with smash burgers. Never knew about smash burgers until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, it's just a burger. Like, what's the big deal, right? And the thing is, you can only make it on a flat top, right? You can't make it on a traditional grill with grates because as you smash it down, and so do you know how smash burgers are made, or
No,
should I
not
explain that?
not not exactly.
So what you do is you create a meatball, right? And typically they're like anywhere from like 3 to 4 ounces of meat.
Sure.
And what you do is you put it on a hot griddle, and then you use something heavy to smash it down. And so what you're getting, right? The reason they do it is not just for show. What it does is it makes the bottom side stick, right? It makes it stick, gives you nice sear, which is, like when it gets little charred and little crunchy on the outside,
Sure.
right? But the cool thing is it keeps all of that juiciness still on the inside. And so as you grab it, flip it, the other side gets a sear as well. The when you bite into it, it's almost like biting into air. And so when I tried it, I was like, this is this is like a new way of making burgers. Like for me now, I can't have a burger with like a thick patty. Like it's disgusting to me.
Hmm.
Like for me, it's smash burger or bust. For me personally, if I want to make a burger, I'm making smash burger, or at least the patty is very thin, if I'm going to make it. And so for me, that was the way to go. And you always have to have a good sauce. And so this is a area where I must have made 15 different sauces, and none of them were like where I'm like, man, I feel 100% confident about this sauce. It was always like, "Oh, something's missing." And so, but the 15th or 16th time we landed on the sauce where I was like, no, this is it. This is it. And that's the sauce I use today. We call it the Hazar sauce, which for your non-Armenian folks means 1,000. So that's kind of a play on words for
Right.
that Thousand Island. But yeah, we make our own sauce, and it goes very well with the burger. And so I've kind of honed that burger for a few years now, and really like where it's at, and I'm really happy to serve it to people.
What would you say is tougher for you? Serving the smash burgers or the beef jerky and the smoked Chex Mix and the churro Chex Mix?
Yeah. So the longest process wise,
Yeah.
is the beef jerky for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the beef jerky, you buy, the meat comes like it's a big piece of meat, right? And sometimes you need to trim the fat off. So with beef jerky, you have to understand that fat is bad. Not on a steak, right? Steak, a lot of other things you're cooking beef wise, fat is flavor. But for beef jerky specifically, fat goes bad. It goes rancid. So
Mm-hmm.
so you need to get rid of it as much as possible. And so from there, you need to slice it, create the marinade, and then it has to sit overnight in that marinade. And so comparing that to a Chex Mix, which takes anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half to make, versus even the burger, which takes like 10 minutes to make. I mean, that's one of the perks of making the smash burger is it's quick, and so you can deliver it quickly, and so you're not spending a lot of time at the grill making a single burger where thick patty, you got to make sure is it cooked all the way through, all that. But smash burger, because it's so thin, um a couple minutes on the griddle, on a very hot griddle, it's fully cooked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I assume you also not for the business, but just personally, you also
Yeah.
cook ribs too, right?
Yeah.
Do you prefer dry rub or wet rub? Because that's
Yeah.
always a big debate.
On ribs,
Yeah.
for sure dry rub. Yeah. Uh, I think when I just started cooking, right? Maybe where I started taking cooking seriously, I tried a lot of wet rubs with like steaks, um, but they were never at the flavor that I expected it to be, and so with the dry rub, I think it does a better job in really enhancing the meat flavor. Excuse me. And so, um, for sure, I prefer the dry rub. Now, beef jerky is the opposite. I I prefer a wet marinade, where it's like sitting and soaking in, um, because it helps it for the flavor of the beef jerky because you're dehydrating it. You're almost taking the flavor out,
Right.
right? All the moisture is getting taken out, and so you need a marinade that's really seeping in. But for the most part, I'd say 80% of the time I'm using um, a dry rub. But again, like if I'm making things like shawarma or al pastor, which are kind of one and the same in a lot of
Right.
ways, wet. I mean, you have a wet marinade. It's almost like I feel like the thinner the meat, right? Chicken, pork, whatever, uh, the more beneficial it is to use a wet rub. And again, it's also the flavor profile you're trying to bring out, and also the history of whatever you're cooking, right? Like historically, al pastor is made a certain way, shawarma is made a certain way, and so there's a certain flavor that's expected out of it, and so you don't want to be venturing too far outside of those flavor profiles. But if I'm doing like personally, if I'm doing like a brisket, ribs, kind of like a Texas style, definitely dry rub for sure.
What do you think Kassabian Barbecue, how does it differentiate you from other barbecue businesses?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. Um, one of the things that I like to do is keep things fresh. So nothing is ever frozen, right? I hate frozen fries. Like I can tell, I think everyone can tell. You go to a burger spot, and like the you can tell that the fries for them are kind of like a throwaway item. Like, well, yeah, we need to offer fries, but we don't really care about them.
Right.
Like for me, fresh fries, good seasoned fries are the way to go. Um, and also along with that, having a good product, so fresh ingredients, good product, we make our own sauce. um, it's also the customer service,
Hmm.
right? Again, i want I want people to come back, right? And so for me, the one of the best things for me is watching someone try your food and then they take a bite and you just see that joy on their face, right? It's like a joyful experience. And I try and give people that, right? And give them that experience. And I think, when you're thinking about brand wise and you want people to continue to enjoy your food, because look, I mean, especially in Los Angeles, how many options do people have, right? And this person is, out of all the options they have, they're trying your place.
Yeah.
Like, what a
Los Angeles,
privilege.
so many
What a
Yeah, yeah,
privilege,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so you want to be able to leave them with the best experience possible. And you know, because the competition is high,
Hmm.
you need to take it even further up a
Right.
notch, right?
Right.
And so you need to be the best at certain things. And so, I've worked in customer service, at certain times in my life, and I've always understood that whatever you're selling doesn't even need to be the best,
Hmm.
like the best of the best of the best, right? You can have a top five product, right? So it doesn't mean, I'm not trying to say, hey, you can have a really bad burger, but you have great customer service, and so
Right.
people are
Right.
gonna come back. But that's not the case. No, people are gonna come back for your food, but your customer service, along with the food, is going to help differentiate you in the market, especially in a very very competitive market as Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. For people watching this, because I know you haven't been in the culinary business
Yeah.
all your life. You come from another background. You were
Mm-hmm.
a data analyst, as you
Mm-hmm.
told me. For anyone that wants to take that leap of faith and leave what they're doing,
Yeah.
maybe they're, an attorney, but they want to open a coffee shop. Maybe, whatever the situation is, what would you say to someone that wants to go from one industry to another that has no relation to
Yeah.
each other?
Well, you obviously want to understand everything before you take that leap. I mean, especially like the main thing is financially, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to leave your job that you've done for years and take a leap into a totally different industry, you don't want to do that on a whim and as soon as the idea arrives, right? Like, I would say that would be pretty stupid of you. I think if you want to make the change, you have to do the research of like, first off, learn how to make the thing, right, that you want to do, right? If you want to open up a coffee shop, make sure you make really good coffee because there, again, it depends on where, right? But like, let's say Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, like, I mean, there's coffee shops everywhere. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? Why should I drink your coffee versus anyone else's coffee? And so you need to understand how that business world runs. And so part of that is you'd be surprised at how willing people are to share knowledge with you. And so if you go to a coffee shop owner and you're like, "Hey, can I buy you lunch? And let me pick your brain for an hour or 30 minutes." It's crazy how many people are willing to actually sit down with you. And so I would say do the research and be ready, and even start on the side, as like a side hustle or whatever. Excuse me. Doing some of that where you get a feel because sometimes I've had ideas of stuff I want to do and I've tried them, right? And I'm like, I don't like this, right? Because sometimes it's like you like the idea of it, but you don't realize how much work it's going to take,
Hmm.
right? I mean, like I I didn't realize how hard it was, right? Excuse me. Um, and so for me, it was like, okay, well, m- slowly start. Don't overthink it. Slowly start. Understand the business. Make a good product. Get to a point where you're able to consistently make a good product. It's not by chance that you're making good product. And from there, if you still like what you're doing, just continue, right? And then when you get to a point where you feel like you're making enough that's covering your expenses and you know, you're not going to lose everything basically,
Sure.
right? Where you have some sort of buffer. I mean, like any business you're going into almost, right? Then you can make the switch. But I think it's a slow, it's a slow over time, process of
Sure.
just kind of like it's not an overnight jump, but almost like there's a visual I have, and I'm trying to explain it. It's almost like two colors are like crossing over, slowly, and eventually the other color kind of takes over. And so that would be my advice of just like do it, but be smart about the change because it is a totally new industry that you probably don't understand.
And where do you see a Kassabian barbecue like 3 to 5 years from now? Where
Yeah.
do you see it?
Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier of like there are multiple options ahead of me and I could see it taking off in either direction. Um, and I would not have any regrets or be sad about either direction. So if I go the brick and mortar route, open up my own place where, you know, my ideal brick and mortar place would be I want people to go there and be able to be there for hours and study, you know. Um, I don't know if you remember there was a place in Glendale uh, called CNC.
No.
So it was like a study place, and they serve food, but it was open 24 hours. Now I'm not, I don't. It's not like I want to open a 24-hour place, but like it was primarily a place for studying. Excuse me. And people go there study, but there's food available, coffee available, and so my ideal place would include that, a bakery portion, a meat market, and part of that meat market is also where I'm serving food, burgers or whatever. So it's like this almost like hybrid
I
type
like
place.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that'd be my ideal.
That's not something you see
Yeah.
really. Places that people go and study for hours. It's either
Coffee shops.
coffee shops or libraries. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
see that. So
Like
yeah, that's pretty cool.
so for me, if I'm gonna go study somewhere, or I want to go somewhere like that, I'm okay if it's quiet, right? My wife's the opposite. Like, she loves the hustle bustle, sounds. So she'll go to like a super busy place and study and whatnot. But I think that's very helpful for a lot of people. And so, when I imagine myself sitting in a place like that, and there's the hustle bustle of, like, people coming in buying marinated barbecue meat, and like some people getting coffee or whatnot. And so, yeah, if it was a brick and mortar, that would be the direction I would want to take it. If the smoked snacks take off, so be it. I mean, I could potentially get into like big box stores, right? Be able to manufacture at a much larger scale and get them into big box stores. Or the third route was the sauces and the rubs that I have, to be able to bottle those up and get them in the big box stores or sell them online, right? And so for either route, I would enjoy it. Although there is a part of me that kind of wants the brick and mortar, right? I really like the idea of it, but again, like, I'm also not naive about the difficulties of running a brick and mortar shop versus an online only or manufacturer only shop. So 3 to 5 years, man. I've told myself, don't overanalyze. Try everything. See how you like it. See how the market responds, and from there, just take one step at a time. One step at a time. You don't have to just like put, like I said, put all your eggs in one basket and be like, brick and mortar or bust. No, forget these other things. No, I think you need to be open and do what you enjoy and are proud to put out into the market, and from there, see how the market responds, and then you just kind of just keep going towards that.
Yeah. Do you think your background in data analytics has served you well in your business right now?
No, I
No?
think they're quite the opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah, because of
Because
the
you overanalyze it.
yeah, for sure. And so that's something I've had to like explicitly tell myself, like, you need to stop, because like one of the things was, I always told myself I need to make a profit quickly. Like, and so like I was like analyzing all of my sales, all of my costs and stuff. And then I told myself, look, couple months, don't look at your sales, don't look at the cost. Obviously that stuff matters, right? So
Yeah.
down the line, you're gonna have to, but like, to get started, this isn't a general advice for everyone. This was specific,
you,
yeah,
yeah.
for me. I told myself, don't look at that stuff, just do it. And so, will it serve me in the future? Yeah, for sure. As the business matures a little bit more, it will serve me much better. But at that beginning point, it was kind of working against me, especially as someone who, from a business sense, was a bit naive.
I love that. I like how two worlds can collide.
Yeah.
And you make the best with what you have, and sometimes it works out.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Either
you
way
need to-
is fine. Yeah.
the thing is, like, you don't want to live with the regret of not trying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I can look back. Let's say this whole thing fails, right? In 2 years, Kassabian Barbecue doesn't even exist, let's say, right? But I can look back on this and tell my kids, hey, at least I tried, right? And it wasn't ever if I'm lucky enough to live into my 70s and 80s, I don't look back and think, man, I wish I tried. I can't now, I'm too old, but I wish I tried. So I'm trying, because there is that fire in me that wants to try and wants to continue to work at it to make it work. So here I am.
Well, from the feedback you've been getting and the reviews you've been getting
Yeah.
online, I think you're on your way. And
Yeah, I mean, it seems so.
it'll be
It seems
great.
that, yeah.
A couple years from now, and you're doing well.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
I
you.
won't take up too much of your time, but I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And well, lastly, where
Yeah.
can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Kassabian Barbecue
Uh-huh.
on Instagram. I'm on Etsy, same thing, Kassabian Barbecue, and basically on the food, ordering apps. You can find me on a lot of them, but
Like Grubhub and
Grubhub is the main one that I'm on
Okay.
right now. Yeah,
Okay.
but Uber Eats and all that stuff, you should be able to find me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.